Hello, Marco. Thank you for being on. I know it's Father's Day. I hope I'm not encroaching too much, but I said that before and you explained after, so it's very good.
No problem whatsoever. These days of pandemics, I'm being a full-time stay-at-home dad, so it's okay if I take a break. It's not like I never see my kids these days, so it's fine.
I mean, I have children too, but they're out of the house. They're older.
No, mine are 8 and 9, and so that's a lot of love, a lot of energy there.
So thank you, Marco. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for being on, So you know what? Right away, I'm going to go into the questions. Then we're going to get some questions from some people in the peanut gallery.
Okay.
And we're going to get all worked up and stuff like that.
Okie dokie.
So my first question, first of all, I've been watching you for a long time.
Well,
okay?
Thank you.
And I've learned a lot from you. I've learned what not to say from you. And I've learned what to say. So why, Marco, why would you want to do, being a professor, why would you want to have a YouTube channel? Like, don't you have enough work?
Yes, I do. And that's why this is no work. This is passion. The line between work and no work for me is very thin, to the point that sometimes I don't know exactly how it is. I mean, I play games. I always play games. And there was a point in my life where I was like, well, I play games a lot. I've read about the history of gaming, about the theory. Maybe I can teach a class about gaming. And I've been teaching class about gaming for a while at Indiana University. I am an adjunct to the media school where I teach class about game history. And now when I play a game, I'm like, is this work? Because I don't know, really, because I play a game and maybe then I get an idea that I share in class, that I write about in an essay. So I've always been passionate about a lot of things. And in a certain sense, my job to start with is an extension of my passion. It's pretty much at a certain point in life, I was like, okay, how can I get paid to do my hobbies? How can I figure out a way to get paid to do what I like? And it turned out that teaching about literature, about film, about culture, about games, about history, is precisely that. So I teach about stuff that I'm passionate about, and then I make videos about stuff that I'm passionate about. I don't see it as extra work as opposed to extra passion sharing. I started kind of like by chance, really by chance. It's a really weird story. I don't know if you want to hear it, but
go ahead, of course.
Yeah, of course. I was a professor at Indiana University here. It was 2010, and a friend of mine, professor in the media school, told me, hey, do you want a website for game reviews? I'm like, well, that's kind of out of the blue, because he had a student who had created a website mainly because the student could showcase his ability of building websites. So it wasn't because the games, could have been about anything. Then the student moved on, and this professor that was working with the graduate student had this website. It was called 2D6. It was around for a couple of years.
I remember
2d6.org. And so I was like, that seems interesting. Initially, I didn't think of being a reviewer. I wanted to be one of the editors. I started writing to green companies that sent us review copies, and I started giving them to reviewers, people that were passionate about. And guess what? It turns out I'm not a really good editor or wrangler of reviewers, because these people were not doing the reviews. I started getting embarrassed because the publishers had trusted us, had believed in us. And so I started getting the copies back, and I thought, you know what, I'll just at least get these ones done so that, you know, I pay my debt with the companies that believed us. And I started making it just to get those games out of the way. And I was like, this is so much fun. And that's how I got started. 2D6 then did not continue, but I continue. And so that's how I started, completely by chance, because there were these review copies going around that were not from me originally, that I was embarrassed that I had asked for and no one was reviewing. And that's how I started.
Now, you mentioned something, and it brought something up. When you review something, and this is the question that I'm sure every reviewer is asked, is it an honest review? Is it this? Let's say, Marco, you know the designer. You know the publisher. And I probably just answered my own question, because if you know them that much, they know you that much. So, okay. They send you the game. How diplomatic must you be giving an honest review, not a review that, because you can say this is my opinion, blah, 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 but giving an honest review of the mechanics, the components, and so on.
Now, something that I'm very, very peculiar, and I'm a lot stricter than a lot of other reviews, is my complete, absolute independence. It's 2020. My channel doesn't play advertisements. It's not monetized. There's no ticket. There's no admission. I just go out there and boom, and I talk about whatever I want, and I say whatever I want. As an academic, my job is built on my intellectual reputation. To me, that is the most important thing. So I may be wrong. I may be somebody you can disagree with, but there's no reason for me to say things that I don't believe in or that are not real in my games, in my game reviews. So, of course, publishers do send me review copies.
Yes.
And they know me. So sometimes I'm like, we had this game, but I don't think you're going to enjoy it all that much. But we had this other game that we think you would enjoy. This being said, of course, until you're there, until the proof is in the pudding, you don't know. I may believe I'm going to love this game desperately, and I don't like it at all. Until you play it, you don't know. So with designers and publishers knowing me and me knowing them, it still happens that I get a review copy and the game is terrible. Or it doesn't work for me, I should say. Or it feels terrible to me. And then I simply make the kind of negative review that you see. I'm always diplomatic in the sense that even a stinker is somebody's child. Somebody believed in that design. Maybe they shouldn't have, but they have. Somebody invested time. Maybe it was a bad idea, but they did. And I respect that passion. I respect that commitment, even if I did not like the outcome at all. So maybe I'm frustrated about the game, and I had a little bit of some jokes here and there, maybe a little bit ironic, but I try not to be sarcastic. I try not to be mean. Just yesterday, I published a fairly negative, completely negative review of a game by Aiello called Superfly, which is a game for children and families. It's not that I expect that, Tapestry or Scythe or something super, but even in the categories of really bad game. And I said so in the video, and if Aiello sends me more games in the future, I'll review them. Otherwise, well, I guess I won't. So I express my opinions and my ideas. I always make sure that it's clear that I am sharing what happened to me as I played the game. And that's how it is. Now, this being said, there are times where I look at the comments and they're like, I gave a very negative review. And the viewer says, well, thank you very much. I think I'm going to buy this game. Because even if you didn't like it, what you show me, I think it's going to work for me.
Oh, that's good.
Since I frame it as this is what I see, this is what happened, what didn't work for me, I feel like, oh no, this game, you say solely bland and straightforward and too easy for you, but it's exactly what I like to play with my spouse. Booyah, it has happened. So publishers usually, if they're professional, appreciate that. There's another thing. For each negative, honest review that a reviewer puts out, then the other positive reviews have more strength because the viewers know that I'm not advertising. I don't work for the publishers. So the publishers, even if I review something negatively, rarely do they get offended, say, I'm not going to send you review copies anymore because you gave us a negative review, etc., etc. Because maybe that stinker doesn't sell as many copies, but then when there's a game that I like and I give it a positive review, that has a bigger impact. So to me, ultimately, I feel as a gamer that I'm working, quote unquote, for other gamers, for the people out there that watch my videos and they don't have infinite budget and they want to try to get the games that they may like and want to avoid the games that they may not like. Incidentally, that may give an advantage to the publishers, but it's not my goal. My goal is to help people connect with games that they may like and avoid games that they may not like.
Now, Marco, you brought something up. You said if the publisher is professional. Are there a lot of those?
Most of them. From time to time, again, somebody sends you like an email that is offended or like you don't get it. There was a game that I reviewed negatively a couple of months ago small company. I'm not going to mention, but basically they started rallying and calling their friends a little bit Twitter storm. Oh, he clearly hasn't played this game enough. He clearly doesn't understand it. Because obviously, right, if I don't like it, it must be because I don't understand it. It's not
Obviously.
possible that I get it and I have a different taste. And so I'm never gonna review anything by this publisher again, because actually, even subconsciously, I don't know now that I can trust myself, because that was really annoying. If I play the next game and I don't like it, I don't even know if I really subconscious and being affected by. I think they're just a bunch of not very professional people.
So it's funny,
but it goes all the way from these people saying you don't get it, you just have no idea about how great our game is, to a publisher once writing me, "Thank you for your review. We hope you will give us a chance to impress you in the future." Now that's some serious maturity.
yeah.
So it runs the gamut. There's a huge variance there, but most people that are in the business know what the role of a reviewer is, which is not to give advertisement for free, but it is to express ideas. At least that's in my experience. That has been my experience.
Well, I'm glad. And it's funny, you take this work, if I can call it work. You try to be as neutral and as biased as you can, and you seem
unbiased.
Unbiased. Sorry. And unbiased as you can. Is that a natural thing or no?
Yes, I try to be as neutral and unbiased as possible. Why? I know that such a thing doesn't exist in a general term. It's still me. Another person will have a different opinion. So again, if I am biased, at least I clarify that I am the person making this video. I'm the person sharing these opinions. I don't have a method to say if a game is good in some form of objective sense. It may be good to me and to my group and not work or not work for me and my group. Of course, in the videos, I still say it's a great game. Oh, I love it. Or it's a terrible game. If rarely that happens also. But it should always be understood that that's just so that that the communication is smooth. That I don't every time say, in my humble opinion, and I want to disclaim that what I'm going to say next is simply an expression of my personal subjective experience with this game. I think that maybe, probably, if I dare say so, this game is good.
My God.
So I just go to this game is good, but it's actually, you should always remember that disclaimer is always there.
Disclaimer, first of all, it's too long, that disclaimer. But anyways, I understand.
Now, that's why I don't do it. That's why I take the shortcut.
Isn't it easier not to review a game you don't like?
From time to time, I do, but not just because I don't like it, but because I can't articulate why I don't like it. So if I just don't like it and I analyze it, oh, this is the problem, then the negative review comes out. There are times that the game just doesn't talk to me. Somehow I don't connect, I don't communicate, I just don't know what to say. And since I watch many video reviews, I've seen when there are reviewers that they don't really know what they think, and they still go out with the video. I don't know if you ever saw those videos that say, if you like this kind of game, I think you'll like it. But if it's not the game for you, I don't think you'll like it. Okay, I didn't need to watch the video to know that. So, but I do. But sometimes that's all I have to say after trying a game. And in that case, I don't make the video.
I understand.
What happens usually, I contact the publisher. I tell them, look, I can't articulate. I don't think I can make a review out of this. So can I send it back to you? Can I buy it from you? Can I give you the money? Because you still send me a copy. And so that on this understanding that you send me a copy, I make a video. I'm not gonna make a video because I don't want to make a video made of nothing. So how can we fix it? So yes, I don't review every game that I get, but it's not because I don't like them. It's because somehow I just don't feel anything.
Words don't come out.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, I just forgot what I was gonna ask Marco. I don't. You know what? I'm gonna ask you a question from a fellow academic.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Gilbert Tosteven.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, how do you other professors in your department at the University of Indiana handle your wargaming? You get flack for your role in the hobby, apart from professional response to your academic books on narrative in board gaming. As a fellow academic, I'm curious, and he's envious that you successfully combine your interest. And thanks for all your wit and wargaming wisdom over the years. That's Gilbert.
Well, thank you, Gilbert. Now, I have to say that I'm very lucky because Indiana University is an incredibly accepting and open-minded institution. It's not territorial. And other institutions like, hey, we teach that stuff. Why would you do so? Indiana University is more like, you want to teach something? Probably you're passionate about it because you don't start saying, I'm going to teach something I have no interest in and I know nothing about. So if you want to teach something, although maybe that's not what is written on your PhD certificate, but you ask to teach it, you're probably passionate about. You probably know about the stuff. Chances are the students are going to get something out of it. So at Indiana University, if you want to teach something that's outside of your department, of your official discipline, you just make a request, and usually they let you teach it. And let you teach it. And if it works, then you get to teach it again. There are a lot of programs that don't belong to specific departments. They don't have a specific topic. Say the honors program. IU has an honors program, precisely for students that want to take an extra classes, and get that extra certification.
This is an elective. This is an elective, right?
Exactly. And this honors program doesn't have its own faculty. It doesn't have a specific group of people that work for them. So every year, people want to teach for the honors program. They make a request, and you can ask to teach anything. It doesn't have to be related with your thing. Actually, that's how we precisely for people to teach outside of their official discipline. Summer programs, same idea. They don't have their own faculty, so you just make a request. It can be about anything. And if you know about the topic, you can do it. That's why I never had any problem if I taught classes about superhero comics, which I did in the past, about history of warfare, theory of warfare, history of gaming, game history, game culture. I never had any problem with any of that because the university structurally is very accepting. It already has in its own structure places where people can teach whatever it is that they're passionate about. And so that's pretty great. I'm afraid that our viewers are going to be even more envious now. But I don't know. Maybe we're going to look for new faculty at you at some point so he can apply. It's a great place. I love it. I love teaching in a university, among other reasons, precisely because it's open-minded. And anything that I'm passionate about, I can teach about.
So, I mean, you're teaching about superhero comics, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an end goal to teaching that course? Like, how's your what do you call that thing when the teacher writes down their for
teacher objectives?
Yeah, like what's the objective of teaching something like? I mean, it's something interesting. I would think like the history of rock and roll, but in the end, is there a point, or is this just an elective for credit's sake?
First, it's funny you mention history of rock and roll, because it's one of the most popular classes at IU. There is such a thing. And I also teach another class which is about mystery fiction, so Sherlock Holmes, James Bond, etc., etc., etc. When you teach these classes, usually the purpose is twofold. One is about the topic itself.
Right.
Because you may have students that want to enter that industry. It's a big industry. They want to write about superheroes for Hollywood. They want to work for Marvel, for DC Comics. They want to make merchandise. They want to work for a game publisher that is going to make a game about Spider-Man or Wonder Woman. Then you need Ravensburger. Ravensburger came out with Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazons. If you took my class about superhero comics, then that's you already have something there. So simply the content as a cultural element can be relevant per se for many people. The fact that a lot of people take it or engage with the content for fun doesn't mean that it's not historically relevant or cannot be useful to young adults that are going to enter the industry in the future.
So does it fall under the sociological?
So the first element is the content itself. If you know the history of superheroes, then there are certain fields in which you're going to find a job that you have an advantage there. Second, then is the method. Precisely, then you learn certain skills, such as the sociology. You learn how to analyze a cultural artifact and say, okay, how come superheroes in the 40s were different from the 50s, the 60s, and so on and so forth. Then you have the sociology element. Then you have the analytical element. So you just learn how to analyze the style, the form, the visual, the composition, etc., etc. And those tools, in a certain sense, is irrelevant what the topic is. Those analytical tools, if you learn how to read a text, how to analyze a text, see the implications, see what is unsaid, see what is behind, see what the text says, and then what the text actually says, all of these levels, it's just a good habit. And once you have that, then you watch the news and you watch them differently. Then
Yes.
you hear politician talk and you see what's actually going on, and so on and so forth. So in a certain sense, the end goal, regardless of history of rock, James Bond, the comic books, is critical thinking. And so that's why I teach, in a certain sense, whatever I teach, that is the end goal. It can be 17th century. Somehow I teach 17th century Baroque literature, and people are like, well, of course, that's an academic thing. Then superheroes, well, what is the point? I'm like, why don't you worry about the 17th century poetry? Actually, that's something that I would try to justify. But actually, there is no difference in the end goal, which is teach the students about critical thinking.
That's very good. Good. Nathaniel Robinson, I'm going to take some questions here. Do you see the question,
Yep.
Marco?
You emphasize using game to teach military history. Do the current games not do as well with other historical fields or even other academic domains? I'm not sure I understand the second part of the question. Do the current games not do as well with historical?
Maybe he's talking about war games in a sense. Obviously.
Yeah. So I use war games to teach about military history and theory. For example, with Sun Tzu, and then we play the game Dynasties, which is not super historical, but does show the principles of Sun Tzu, the idea of preserving resources, of surprising the opponent, of being strong where the opponent thinks you're going to be weak, and vice versa, of avoiding useless carnage. It's a great game because you score a certain number of points by controlling a region, but whether you control it with 1 cube or with 20 cubes, it's still the same score. So the idea is to win with just enough to avoiding carnage, which is one of the principles of Sun Tzu, to try to be violent with the purpose of avoiding more violence in the long run. Win the battle now, so you cut the war short. This is an example of how you can use a game to emphasize the points that students read in a book. Another cases, say we talk about the Napoleonic warfare, and so we talk about the period, we talk about the doctrine, again, the theory that went on. We read Clausewitz, not all of it, but selected passages, and then we play the old Napoleon at Waterloo by SPI, which is a classic introductory war game. So I combine that element because I really like the war element has several advantages. War game element has several advantages. It shows students that history is always in the making. That history happened, but different things could have happened. And now through wargaming, you're seeing all the what ifs. The books tell you what happened, at least in the interpretation of whoever wrote the book. But the game shows you why certain things could have happened, did not happen, the decisions that were made. By looking at history from the point of view of the people that were there, you gain a whole different level of insight. Another great thing that I love about using games is then my students stop. We look at history and we see the mistakes that were made. And we feel so smarter. Oh my God, if I had been there, Napoleon would have been in trouble. then you give them the game, you put them, that's what you have. That's where you are. That's what you can do. And they're like, oh shoot, that completely chaotic thing was by far the smartest thing that could happen in those circumstances. So it teaches students and all of us, I believe, to be humble in front of history.
Absolutely.
We're not smarter just because we see the end product, and then we feel so smart because we think we would avoid those mistakes. And to me, that's a very important, sobering experience. Then there is the final beautiful thing, another things that I try to get the students to think about when we talk about history is we are history, because we talk about history and we say, see, well, of course, in that context, in ancient China, with those cultural elements, with those cultural filters, of course, they were affected by culture and they would think in a certain way. Well, of course, in 19th century Europe, then you had that political system, you have those things. Of course, they would make those mistakes because that was their culture. Luckily enough, we don't have that problem. We look at reality straight in the face. And it's just like, of course. And then it's thinking, oh, wait a second, here's the freaking professor traps. Professors do that.
Yeah.
Because, of course, like we look at the period of history and we see how each period of history was influenced by cultural elements, by their own biases, by their own prejudices. Did we break the curse all of a sudden 10 years ago? Nope. Everybody else was affected by the cultural period, but no, we just look at reality. Of course, as that's an example that they do when we talk about medieval warfare, and we look at how incompetent the French looked in several battles like Agincourt. And we talk about, well, those biases that they had, and well, we would have done so much better. So no, those French that acted in such an incompetent way, they were the best warriors of their age. They were very competent, very intelligent, based on those elements, the what they had culturally, materially. They did pretty good, although it was a catastrophe, a disaster. But we would have done the same or worse. So again, it's a humbling element, but it teaches the students then to look at the present as history in the making.
Mm-hmm.
Where was analyze and challenge their own biases, analyze and challenge. We think not because we just have access to reality, but because we ourselves are influenced by many psychological and cultural factors. And that's one of the big points that I try to make in my classes.
Are your classes online?
No, they went online in the second half of the spring semester 2020 because of the pandemic, but they're usually in person. In
Yep.
the fall, they're going to be online in Zoom, but again, they're not going to be public.
You ever think
because the EU does not allow it.
What you're saying is incredibly interesting. I mean, I can listen to you, and it's great learning. It's actually very funny how smart we think we are. But anyways,
yeah, exactly. That's one of the things. Like, we are not any smarter than anybody else in history. No. Maybe less, but at least we need to look at us from that perspective, as we don't have the truth. Again, those French aristocrats at Agincourt were a Crécy. They didn't think, oh well, since I believe in monarchy and in my God-given superiority, then I'll have to do this. No, they was like, that's the way it is. This is common sense. And so I try to give my students the impression that there is no such a thing as common sense. There are different cultural constructions that we call common sense, but our common sense is not only smarter or common or quote unquote natural than any other versions of common sense in history.
You ever think of taking this, just what you're talking about, because it's interesting, like I said, and you're passionate about it? You ever think of just doing it online as like you do your game reviews?
I guess I could, in a sense. Sometimes I do. I mean, when I share my opinions in this or that game, I guess I could create some lectures about all the awesome things that Marco has in mind when he thinks about history or something like that. I don't know exactly how would you frame it, how would we call it. If it's like a blog about history and gaming, word gaming and history, historical gaming, etc., etc., etc. That's a possibility. Maybe it was, I think, a little like work online, but
yeah, I know, I understand.
Another important thing I want to say about using games is that I use board-based simulations for certain events. If it's Agincourt, if it is the Battle of Pharsalus or Waterloo or whatever. But then for diplomatic elements, which are also important to know, I use role-playing games. And so, for example, we play a game about the American Civil War, which is called Kentucky 1861, when the government of Kentucky was trying to decide which side do we go, because there were people that wanted to go with the Union, people wanted to go with the South, people wanted to stay neutral. And you know the beautiful thing that Lincoln said, I hope God is on my side, but I must have Kentucky. I love that quote. God, yes, I can figure it out without God, but without Kentucky. And the other thing he said, to lose Kentucky is to lose the whole game. That was the linchpin in Lincoln's mind. And so my students, they don't just read about these events. I give them a character sheet based on actual people that were there. And so each character has different objectives. Some people are like, I sell cotton. I work with people that sell cotton, so I want to go with the South. I don't want to ruin a relationship with the South. Other people, for practical, moral, economic reasons, they want to go one way or the other. And so basically the game is different sessions in which we simulate the government of Kentucky in 1861. It's really fascinating. And again, the students get a whole different appreciation of history in the making.
Now, is this, I mean, playing an RPG, obviously you can't do this in just one class. Is this multiple classes or the whole?
Multiple classes. They receive readings, so they receive their own character sheet, and we have a setup session. So for about an hour, we just talk about the content. We want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. We address important topics to avoid embarrassing, awkward moments. For example, the problem, of course, of racism. And the way I like to do it very bluntly, I say, I have bad news for you. You're all racist. And the class goes very quiet.
No kidding.
And then I explain, because in 1861, even those of you that oppose slavery, their characters against slavery, no one believes in equality. The concept was completely unknown. Very few people, so outliers, but that was considered really bizarre. Even people that believed everybody's born equal, everybody has the same rights, but in truth, we don't want to mingle too much. And right there, and I would say another thing is that everybody here is a white, wealthy man. And the women like, well, why do I have to play this character? But then we start talking precisely about that. And then it becomes a topic of conversation. Yes, the political structure of the time did not allow women or even men that were not wealthy to have access to the government of Kentucky. So you can talk about these very sensitive topics as long as you frame them as part of a cultural conversation, like we're talking about this, so we learned about them. Then the women don't feel excluded. Even if they have to play a racist white man from the 19th century, they realize this is the only way I can learn about this. We learn about the topic. We don't gloat about it. We don't endorse it. And so it works very well. But so you have a setup session to make sure that everybody knows about the historical context. It knows how to talk about it. Also, I don't want to have students that all of a sudden get on a chair and start giving me a rant about the God-given superiority of the superior white race. But sometimes, if your character would do so, you raise your hand and say, my character says something really racist right now. That works. You understand? We see how, no, those are exactly the words that the student says. The student doesn't say what the character would say. The student says, my character right now makes a racist speech about the God-given superiority of the white race, which some of their characters would do. This way, again, the student doesn't have to utter those racist, vile, repugnant words, but it still actually says, the student thinks, oh, I think in this moment, my character may exploit racism to make a political point, to make political gain. So again, the student is not making a racist speech, but sees how racism can be used as a political tool. So as you can see, I'm a fairly fearless professor because I enter these very uncomfortable conversations, but in a way that the students don't feel uncomfortable about it, and they really learn about these topics. They really get to see it from different perspectives.
I have a hard time with that, Marco. I can't. I hate bullies.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could take a class like that. It's just too heavy for me. I don't know what to say. I'd be like, I don't want to read this speech. I don't want to read this speech.
No, you don't read the speech. Maybe I didn't clarify my point. You don't read the speech.
You create it?
No, you don't read it or you don't create it. You say, my character is making a racist speech.
Oh, okay.
That is literally the words that you say. You understand?
See.
You don't make the speech. That's all that you say.
Okay. Because I'm thinking about that game, and I've discussed this with Uwe Eichert, the Academy game.
Oh yeah.
a game called Freedom.
Sure.
And just the topic for me, it's like, look, man, I just can't do it, Uwe. I can't do it. And he says, no, Dan, you don't understand. This is a historical piece. And I'm like, it's just not getting through to me. I can't do it. I can't do it.
What I can again, just to clarify, I'm not asking the students to make the racist speech.
No, I understand.
Sometimes I give the students literally the race card. It is a card that says race card. And when they play it, that represents the fact that their character is making racist statements. Because that wasn't otherwise we are washing that out. It's too convenient. It's too then all of a sudden it becomes, it was about the rights of the states. No, it really was about these racist people that believe in the superiority of the white race, etc., etc., etc. So if I'm making an historical point, we need to include that.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're just sanitizing it. And I can tell you this very simply: with these techniques, in which to include racism as a tool, but without actually having to role play it, I never had any complaints. I played this game about Kentucky 1961, about slavery, about racism, about treason, about loyalty, about these very heavy topics with, by now, maybe 100 students over the years. Students of color, women. I haven't had a single complaint. As people telling me, wow, I really got to understand how racism and politics are enmeshed.
Yeah.
And why it can be used as a political tool. And then, of course, they look at the news like, oh, I'm glad that I looked at that I played that game, because now I hear people telling me, oh, no, this is not about politics. It's just about race. I know, it's politics and race and racism can go together.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I can tell you, I understand your resistance, but taught by somebody who is familiar with the topic and is familiar with techniques to introduce sensitive topics in a way that does not simplify them, but does not make them too contentious, it works. All I can share is that with my students, it always worked, and they always learn a lot about the topic, and no one ever felt uncomfortable to the point of say, Professor, that I wish you hadn't done that.
Okay, well, I wish you could do this course online, because you'd have a subscriber here 100%, because I need to get over this, because it hurts me. It hurts me, and the only way I can deal with it is to get completely aggressive, and that's, you know what I'm saying? Let's not talk about that. I told you, my guys, that the people who follow this ask serious questions. And Marco, you will be judged on this one for the rest of your life. And here is the question.
Oh, okay. This is contentious. Okay, so get ready for some hate mail. Have you seen the cute video by Stanley Tucci a couple of weeks ago in which he explained how to make Negroni? He lost me at vodka. I was like, okay, what's happening here? The perfect Negroni recipe, given it a lot of thought, a lot of trial and error, is this: 1 part Campari Red, 1 part vermouth, red vermouth, and 1 part gin. Those 2 parts are non-negotiable. Those are brand drinks, red vermouth and Campari. So the gin, quote unquote, any kind of gin would work, but the risk is always that the gin overpowers the other 2. And so the gin that works best is Beef Eater, in my very humble opinion.
It's a very mild gin. That's a very mild gin.
Otherwise you only taste the gin. Now, these 2 go very well together. A couple of interesting things. If you order Negroni in an American bar, I don't know where the idea came. They bring it with 1 single large block of ice in it. I don't know who came up with that idea. That's not how it is in Italy, in which you have normal size cubes of ice, which of course they cool it off and they dilute it a little bit quicker, which is okay because it's 1 strong drink. Another thing, and again, don't know what happened in American bars, you will have Negroni with a orange peel. In Italy, it's always with orange slices. So that's it. That's how I like to do it. So first you put the ice, then those three ingredients in no particular order, then slice of orange, which I use to mix to stir it, and then you have the most fantastic drink in the world. I I love it so much. I gave myself a rule: no more than one Negroni per day. But then there is no rule about how big it is. So I got a bit of a wiggle room there.
That's
And
great.
after I drink that big Negroni, I don't care about the rule anymore. So I make a second. That's the way it goes.
I mean, do you have a vermouth preference? Because you have a gin
Yeah,
preference.
Martini Rosso. Martini Rosso.
That's simple. That available.
Yes, it's
That's
actually that also the most of the three is the most inexpensive and the easiest to find. There was a period in time here with the pandemic a couple of months ago with distributors, everything closed. There was no Campari in Bloomington, Indiana. Those were dark days, but now we're back. Once I heard that they had the Campari again, I went to a local store and I did the little runs once and think, I want all the Campari
You
that you have in the store.
you really?
I really said that.
Oh man.
It was only 6 bottles, so no big deal. But
Any
yeah, I didn't want to have to face the great Campari famine of 2020 again. That was too dark.
I understand you. Um, Campari on its own is very distinct. There's another liqueur, Italian liqueur called Cynar.
So yeah, made of artichoke.
With Cynar, I mean, I'm hearing here. I want to hear it.
hmm
And
Yeah, I am very stickler for Negroni. There are people that replace some of those things with other things. For example, again, Stanley Tucci says you can use vodka laced with gin. I'm like, you monster. There are other things that are good, but to me, the Negroni is the king of all drinks. And again, just I have this obsession somehow for this drink. Actually, there's another drink that I like because my wife is Brazilian, and now actually my in-laws live with us. And so my father-in-law also makes caipirinha from time to time. Caipirinha is a Brazilian drink. I don't know if you're familiar with. There's also another version, so caipirosca. They're basically the same preparation. They just have the basic. So in case anybody's interested, you need a bottle, a glass with a thick bottom. Then you put cane sugar in it, lime. You take a lime, cut it in eight parts, and use 4 of them. So 4/8. You put it on the sugar. You squished it in like with a pestle possibly.
Yeah.
And then you pour either traditionally this Brazilian spirit called cachaça. You can replace it with rum. It works. And that's it. And ice.
That's it.
Or with the same base, again, sugar and lime squished in, you can add vodka, and then you add caipiroshka and ice. And those are very good drinks. It just makes vodka drinkable because I don't know how people do it otherwise. I admire the strength of people that just drink it straight. I can. Caipiroshka makes vodka into a natural drink, and it's very delicious. Try it tonight.
I don't have capiroshka.
Again, if you have vodka, then you can make caipiroshka. If you have vodka, sugarcane, and lime, you can make caipiroshka.
I have gin because I live in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Making our own gins here, and it's actually award-winning. And there's always a hint of spruce.
Okay.
And it's very nice, especially when you have a martini. Instead of putting olives with like a dirty martini, instead of putting olives and a little bit of brine, what you do is you take the shoots from a spruce tree in the spring, you brine it, and you use that instead. So you have a very Quebecois type of drink.
Oh, la.
But it's very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, enough fun times. Let's get serious.
Back to the serious stuff.
Marco, how do you deal with criticism?
Easily, because I don't read it. So I rarely read comments to my videos. Honestly, just I don't have the time and the energy. And if I read a comment, then I reply to it, and then I spend the entire day replying to the replies, etc., etc., etc. Casual, and maybe it sounds snobby, but casual online criticism, I tend not to respond to, because just because somebody typed those words, and I don't know if they care or they were annoyed, their hobby is just to insult people. It's hard for me to take it seriously. So I just don't respond to it. I don't read the comments. Now, if somebody sends me an email, they take the time to argue a point, then I write back.
Yeah, but Marco, not everybody has your email.
Yes, everybody does, because they just, if you put my name online, you'll find my email address. You'll
I
find my email address shows up right there. You can look for me on Board Game Geek, and you can send me an email there. You can find me on Twitter, and you can send me a message there. It's very easy to reach me. And again, if somebody wants to send me a message, post like "you suck" or "you're ugly" or "awful video," I'm not gonna like, "Oh my gosh, why you say that? Let's talk about it." That's the point. Casual criticism. If you dropped it there casually, uh, either you didn't care that much, or if you care but you didn't express in a way that makes it look like it's part of a conversation, and so there's no point. Sometimes there's case criticism like, okay, this will allow me to clarify something that may have been unclear. But I don't think that we change each other's mind online. I don't think that anybody changes their mind on Facebook, conversations on Twitter. I completely agree with the fact that these are echo chambers. I don't think it's necessarily bad, because actually I get to see more. Oh, I thought I was the only weird in my town that had those opinions. Turns out I'm not that much of a weirdo. I don't see that as a problem, the fact that they work as echo chambers. But I also think that it's kind of like a waste of time to try to do missionary work, whatever your
yeah.
idea, your mission is, in social media. And
And
so, if somebody doesn't like my videos, again, I can say, I can send you back the money of the ticket. Oh wait, you didn't pay for one. I'm sorry, you watched the advertisement. Oh wait, no, you didn't. So ultimately, if you don't like my videos, you didn't lose anything. I didn't show you any advertisement. Didn't take your money. Don't watch it. From time to time, yeah, I'm like, okay, there's this person who comes every week to criticize my videos. What loyalty! That's amazing. Because why do they do that? Why do they endure so much? And they watch my videos. Do they insult them specific? I'm like, wow, what a loser. Like, because if I don't like something, I don't go and inflict it on me so that then I can speak ill of it. I just move on.
that's good. That's good. But you know what? I think you got that sagesse from your years online, because
Mhm.
in the beginning, I'm sure you didn't have those opinions, or you didn't have that. Um, you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh
You
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Also, it was 2010. In my days, in 2010, social media was still in its infancy. We took each other more seriously. We still believed that the online was the same thing as in person, but online.
right,
Before we realized it's different. It's a different performance. You're always only speaking to the choir. Again, you cannot change anybody's mind, etc., etc. And so yeah, there were some weird things going on early on. Publishers saying, "Oh, you really don't understand this game," and the publisher says, "You don't understand this game." Then the designer, "You really don't understand my game," and then other people, random people, saying that my review was bad, and then I go and read the playtesters list on the book manual. Ooh, it turned out the playtester just so happened that they all. And so yeah, sometimes it did happen, and I maybe respond, etc., etc. But now I really don't care about criticism as much.
it's too bad, because anonymity makes you say a lot of stupid stuff. But anyways, whatever.
Mhm.
La, 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 la. Hey, Marco, your preferred cons, or your preferred con, not your favorite, but your preferred.
Mhm. Uh, I, as a father of two kids, and my wife works full time, I just don't go to many. So I just don't have. So I go to Gen Con, which I'm lucky because
Right.
it's right next door. It's an hour from here, and I love it. So I don't know. They can. I went once to another con, which was Origins. I went once, and I liked it very much. But just to tell you, going to two cons a year is already too much work. One day, when my kids go to college and I have so much time on my hand, that'll be different. Then let's talk about it. In 2030, unless civilization has fallen apart by then and Godzilla with rabies has destroyed everything. If you're still around in 2030, probably I'll be going to so many cons. I'll be like, oh my god, so bored. Let me tell you my favorite 5. For now, I can tell you, I go to Gen Con every year, not this year, of course, and I love it. I love Gen Con.
Now, I mean, the 100,000 people doesn't bother you?
No, not at all. I love the love. I love the vibe. I love the crowd. Like, yes, look at how big this hobby is. Look how many people are coming all the way here. Some from an hour away, some from 5 minutes away, some from other continents. It's amazing. I love it. To feel all that shared love. These huge game rooms. I can't see the other end of the room, but I can see tiny people playing there, tiny because of how far they are. I love it.
So you're more of an optimistic person than a pessimistic person, 100% here now. I'm getting to know you like that, and you're just, I mean, for me, 100,000 people, Marco, would freak me out.
Mm-hmm.
Too many people, not enough showers. But you don't see it that way. You just see it like, look at this. It's great for the hobby. Look at everybody getting into it. Positive energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No one goes to Gen Con because they hate it. No one goes to all that trouble. And so seeing so much love for the hobby to me is just so heartwarming. It brings me so much joy that I don't care about the smell and the noise and having to squish to get anywhere. I just love the sense of shared passion.
That's cool. That's cool. Let me see. Do we have any other questions here from our peanut gallery? Let's see here. Nathaniel Robinson again. Oh, he's asking Herman. Sorry. Here, this is what I want. There you go. Kabuki Kid. Kabuki Kid comes on very often. What was the game that took the most time to learn? The hardest game to grok and absorb? And what video took the most work?
On top of my head, I can't single one out. Also, I would say that the hardest ones are the one that then I don't play the game. I read the manual and I suffer and I struggle. And I read it twice. I'm like, okay, this is not gonna work. With some advanced simulations, I love airplanes, I love air warfare, but some games, I'm like, I would just go to pilot school if I was to learn so much. It would probably be easier and I get some money out of it. I don't see the point.
Now,
the hardest thing to grok, for example, of course, there's the big elephant in the room when talking about war game, which is Advanced Squad Leader, which is I'm so happy that so many people are passionate about it. But then sometimes you see some behavior that are almost cultish. Because then you have that Advanced Squad Leader snobs. Even worse, you have the Advanced Squad Leader starter kit snob. That they play the starter kit, and all of a sudden everybody is like, yeah, but it's not like that. Oh, just shut up. Just do CrossFit instead. I don't know. And I've had some friends that were like, they played the starter kit 1 and 2, and all of a sudden everything else was just not the same. I played Advanced Squad Leader starter kit 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I didn't fall in love with it. Just like, okay, but I'm enjoying it, but not to the point that then I want to get the PhD that is required. I would say maybe the most complicated games that then I was not discouraged by the manual, and then I played them. Maybe Unconditional Surrender. That was a pretty heady one. Our Dance 44. But in general, I'm not a fan of long rule books of complicated systems. I prefer simple or medium weight. Gives me historical flavor. I'm a huge fan of Columbia Block War games because they just hardwire so much history in 15 pages of rules.
Yeah. Less.
And that's less can definitely be more, because there's a point. I mean, you can always add more rules to make it more detailed. But the more rules and detail you have, the fewer people are going to engage with that. And in truth, the more you look at the small detail, the harder it is to see the whole picture. And all this idea is like, who is going to play these games? I can play this game, learn it for, it's going to take me 20 hours to learn it, and other 5 people around the world are playing it. But somehow it just feels like gratuitous. If I learn a game and I can play it, and then I can play with my students, and then I can play with my family, and then other people can find it accessible. To me, there's just more value in that. And again, an experience that they can share with others.
But is that because we're getting older, Marco, and we have more responsibilities that we don't want to play these monster games or these 20-hour learning how to do the intro type thing? Is it because we're getting older?
For me, probably. Again, it may be that when I'll be really older, meaning retired, and have so much time on my hands and fewer things to think about, then that's what I'm going to do today. Actually, the next 5 days, all I can do is read this. All I have to do, well, I can devote myself to spend the next 5 days reading this 50-page manual. I can do that. But right now, full-time job, full-time dad, full-time husband, helping with the elderly relatives that live in my house and everything else. Spending 20 hours before I can play the game is just not. And then my daughter's like, "Hey, Dad, want to play a game?" Yes, I want to play with you guys, at least while you're around the house. In a couple of years, you'll be so busy. I'll be begging for your attention. So if right now you want to play with me, I'm not going to say no because I want to learn advanced squad, whatever. I'm going to play with you kids. So between life being busy and being a father, and I'm lucky my daughters are in this like golden age. They're old enough that they can play games, and they're not so old that they don't care about playing with their old men anymore. They're not out of the house. So I want to really enjoy these special times. So yes, right now, war games that have more than 50 pages of rules, I just struggle and I just end up not playing them as much. There was a sale on the MMP site.
Yes,
some of their standard systems, so standard combat. I ordered several of those, so chances are they're going to be reviews of those in the next couple of weeks. I haven't received them yet, so I have to check. They didn't send me any like confirmation thing, but whatever.
Yeah, that was a good sale. I don't know if it's still on there, but it was like half price or something.
Even less than that. So yeah, I got like Rocco the Marne, Cheer Reaver, and a couple of other things like that. So can't wait for those. But 30 pages of rules, small type.
Yeah.
Again, 10 hours to read a manual, 2 hours to set up the game, and maybe the game lasts 5 hours. It's hard for me to just justify that. Right at this point. And again, see, I'm not saying it's bad.
No, it's I understand.
At this point in life, it's hard for me to engage with that.
Same thing with me. I understand. Herman has a question here. Herman Lutman. Do you want to go ahead and read it?
Yes, absolutely. Do you enjoy all aspects of our hobby? Miniatures, PC games, RPGs? At this point, I would have to ask you, what hobby is that? Because it's almost like these are so many different hobbies, because you have people that only play video games and none of those, role-playing games, but don't know what GMT or DVG are, and so on and so forth. But if you're talking about this macro hobby of gaming, miniatures, I love miniature war games, but I'm not a miniature builder or painter. So actually, I have a huge army of paper miniatures. I love those because they just come out of my printer. I cut them. I put a plastic stand. Actually, that also means that there's a lot of variety. I'm not committed, because if I were to build an army of 10,000 metal Napoleonic miniatures, I'm going to play a lot of Napoleonic games. Because it's so much work, then I'm not going to use them as ancient Romans or as aliens. It's stupid. I get kind of like committed to that. And that's something that happened back in the day. But with paper miniatures, today I play the Romans. Tomorrow is Napoleonics. The day after tomorrow is aliens versus Carthaginians, for all I care. So I love miniature gaming in the sense of like the spatial possibility, the fluid action. But I'm not a hobby maker painter miniatures. But paper miniatures resolve that problem. Role-playing games, I love them, but I don't have time to play them. I don't have time to commit to be a game master.
Yeah.
But if a friend says, hey, we're starting our Pathfinder campaign, I would gladly join it as a player.
Okay.
Video games, I play them from time to time when I have time. But again, time is the big thing.
what's one of your preferred video game?
Oh, video game ever? The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to mention it because I just started The Last of Us Chapter 2, Part
You
2. I started it with very mixed feelings because the last, I'm not giving any spoiler, friends. No spoilers. But the first was so immersive,
fantastic,
so
fantastic,
fulfilling. And the end,
fantastic.
no spoilers, but the ending was so breathtaking.
Fantastic.
As the, I don't like, movies, literature is one of those greatest ending in fiction. I haven't seen endings so stunning in many other works of fiction. They didn't feel any need for anything added to that. Almost like, how can you add to that without somehow diminishing it? Of course, but artistically, I did not feel the need of anything added to that because I felt like that's going to diminish it, put it in context, reduce the power of that magnificent ending. So I'm playing it because I want to see where it goes, but I almost wish there wasn't a sequel. It just had remained that amazing thing that it was. So I really, really enjoyed the Last of Us Part 2. I recently finished playing Assassin's Creed's Odyssey, which I enjoyed as a game, and I was disappointed at every ending of the main storylines. So that's one of the problems I have with video games. Very often, there's the action, but the story tends to be lacking. Or when it's great, sometimes the ending is disappointing. While The Last of Us was so amazing, because the storyline is amazing, and the ending is fulfilling, as opposed to there are three main storylines in Assassin's Creed or Odyssey, and I played for 84 hours. It's the video game I played the most ever. So I know, I liked it.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, this is what I get for all that work. So there's that.
What about Fallout?
Fallout, I play Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it very much, and I found that the ending was absolutely disappointing and boring. No spoilers, but I didn't like it at all. I thought it was very anticlimactic. Fallout 4, I started it, and for some reason it didn't click. It didn't resonate with me. Again, I don't have a method to say, oh, now I explain exactly what was wrong with the game. I don't know what is wrong with the game or with me. Maybe one day I'll play it again. I just for some reason I don't find it all that interesting. I never finished it.
Marco, Nathaniel's question: do you think games have had a positive developmental effect on your children?
I think they do. I think my kids are just a little smarter than they would be if they hadn't played so many games. If nothing else, there are certain skills, certain strategy, certain ways of organizing information that they have learned. Certain ways of I have to follow this rule and this other rule, and I have to think my strategy around here. And my kids can play games that are way above their age, standard speaking. I mean, my 8-year-old can play, block war games like Worthington games. That again, on one hand, for war gamers, 12 pages of rules, easy keys. On the other hand, for a 7-8-year-old, for example, she played War Among the Great Lakes with me, which is really good. And I know that if I played it with some casual gamers, they'd be like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" I know that would be challenging. So since I always play games with them, they are more advanced. My now 10-year-old could play King of Tokyo when she was 4. She couldn't read the rules or the cards. I had to explain the effects on the cards, but she could play competently otherwise. Now 4 or 5. So I think that being around games is just taught them something about, has made their brain work. If nothing else, in different ways. Instead of just TV and books, there's a third way in which your brain is working around problems, and I think that's good for them.
Now, does the father explain? Do you go into a discourse about this is what happened during this time and this and that, and do you do that, or do you just play the game?
When we play historical war games, always. When we play historical, always this is what happened. Because my 7-year-old, now she's 8, she turned 8 a couple of days ago, and she's the one that's passionate about historical war gaming. We both love games, but the 8-year-old really loves historical war games. So we played The Longest Trench, and she wanted to know what that was. We played Force. I have a brain short circuit. Strike Force 1. which is a semi-abstract game, still a war game. It's good because it teaches about zones of control and all those things, even like combat ratio. But she wasn't all that like, what do you mean that doesn't happen? Like, what? Oh, it's a what ifs. What if? She was like, yeah, but that didn't happen, so it's not that interesting. I was like, oh, wait a second. Oh, wait, 1812. That's interesting. What happened there?
Oh,
So
I
she
see.
really is passionate about history, and so that's quite remarkable. And
No, that
also,
is,
yes, about all the problems that people see in the war game industry, I don't buy the kids these days argument ever. Because again, I taught games at IU to hundreds of young adults, 18, 9-year-olds. They're really passionate about history. If you if you
yeah,
teach it, if you present in a way that is interesting. But I see this manual which is 40-page long, which scares me.
yeah.
How can I blame an 18-year-old for not wanting to
That
learn it when I don't wanna?
that's right.
So it's the same thing for my kids. My 8-year-old is passionate about history because I show it to her through games that are interesting, that are accessible, that are digestible. And so I totally don't see that the problem in wargaming not appealing to new generations is in the new generations. I think new generations are perfectly happy to be excited about history if it's presented in a way that makes sense to them. And
Yes.
why not? Because
No.
our generation, we're not playing the same games that Clausewitz played. We're not playing games that people played in the 19th century. So why are we whining that new generations want things done their own way? People that are whining now is because they are used to things done their own way, and that's normal. Every generation has its own way. So now, if we want to appeal to a new generation, we have to talk to them in their own terms, not just cry that they are not doing things the way we do it when we didn't do things the way the previous generation did.
Well, it segues into this next question. When you said whiners, it clicked something. But I'm going to answer this: is the grognard dead?
The grognard, no, they're still around, but like everybody else, will die. Now, the grognard also is pronounced grognard. Sorry to
Yeah,
grognard.
I'm talking to
Oui.
yes.
So the grognard culture will, I believe, die when the grognards die, because I don't see any young grognards, because it's a kind of culture to start with is not particularly welcoming. There's almost like a rite of passage. If you teach yourself we're gaming, we're gonna only insult you slightly, almost like hazing. So that what a surprise that kind of culture is not appealing to people.
It
So
killed.
there is this pride. We made it on this side of wargaming. We played the really hard stuff. Good for you, but then don't be surprised when part of your culture is beside this sort of like strict self-selection. Don't be surprised that not many people are in it. There are different types of grognards too, yes, but if we go to this, of course, many people may give different meanings and definition, but the most specific, as far as I know, in Kabuki Kid, this is my definition of grognard, is if somebody calls themselves a grognard, rather than like I play war games or I'm a war gamer, I'm a grognard, the kind of people that I figure in my head when the word is used is people that play heavy war games, that take big pride in playing big, complicated war games, and that complain a lot about
It's a grognard.
yeah, that's precisely what it is. So some people may use it like, oh, I play war games, so I'm a grognard, and that's fine. But I believe the most common usage of the word in the hobby is precisely heavy war gamer with a lot of pride and with a little bit of sarcasm, irony about everybody else. Pride is a good thing, but sometimes in Grenier culture, my impression is that it gets too much of a good thing, and then it turns into like, I can read this manual and play this game that takes 80 hours, so that makes me exactly like that.
And it's funny. I don't even see that in the chess culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yes, isn't it great? Isn't it weird almost? Isn't it? But again, in a certain sense, the how can I say? I'm missing the word. The initiation rite, the rite of passage of being a chess player, is much less painful than learning advanced squad leader. then learning La Bataille system. What a pain in the neck. Oh, that's another system. I read the rules. I'm like, okay, I read the rules. Done. I don't think I don't need to play this because it's not playing. It's just homework. With all due respect for those of you that played and enjoyed, I'm glad for you. I'm always glad that people enjoy what they enjoy. People think sometimes I'm sarcastic. I may dislike that thing, but I'm so happy if you like it and you love it. That's another thing that I believe Grognard culture has, to judge other people based on what they like, which I don't. But that's something in common with a lot of hobby cultures. Well, if you don't like the same Batman stories that I do, how can you be a real Batman? Oh, Star Trek, Star Wars, a lot of toxic things. Well, if you don't like the same Star Wars things that I do, we'll give you whatever about what you like. I know what I like, and if you like what you like, I'm happy for you.
It's like your Negroni with vodka.
Exactly. I'll never drink it. I would be in pain thinking about it, but I will not deny your right to drink an awfully distorted and repugnant version of Negroni.
Oh my God. That's just his opinions. This has nothing to do with this show.
Nope.
That's hilarious, man. I don't want to take up too much more time, Marco. I'm just going to ask you one more thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you watch other reviewers? Do you have time?
Not anymore.
Yeah,
I used to do that a lot. Again, when I started making video reviews, 2010, I had one kid, and she was 4 months old, which she means she was a lot of work, but also she still slept a lot. And then another kid came around, and then the kid grew up. And so in the early 2010s, I used to watch a lot of videos. I watched a lot of Tom Basil, Joel Eddy, and Lance. Those were pretty much the two that I watched the most. And then we had, for a period of time, actually a podcast together.
Yes, you had a collaboration. I remember.
Exactly. Which then we didn't continue for a simple reason that their time zones. They're on the West Coast, and they only had time starting late at night. And for them, it's like, well, it's set at midnight, but to me it was 3 a.m. But I'm still around at 3 a.m. But then by the end, when the show the last part was 5 a.m. and I started not connecting things very well. And so we couldn't make it work, just mainly because of the time zone, because starting at 1 a.m. is okay for me and was okay for them, but then starting at 4 a.m. for me, then I'm not in my best shape by then. So I used to watch a lot of them. I think there was almost like a more pioneer spirit back in the day. Anybody with a camera. So there were a lot of people that would put out a couple of videos, even very interesting, then they would just disappear for a while. Now it's a good thing probably because the hobby's growing, so things are becoming more professional. So people will come out with sponsors and more higher production values and stuff like that. So partially I don't have the time. Partially I just like that unpolished element of just people in front of a camera telling me what they think.
Yeah, you have.
And I think Joel has kept that a lot, and I have. That's just what I do, and so that I don't even have an intro.
Yeah, I asked
when
you.
People have an intro. Why? I want to watch the video. I already saw your intro. Even that is a skip intro. Give me at least that. So when I watch a video, I want to hear you talk about the game. I don't need those 30 seconds of animation that I've seen a million times.
But I fluff sells, eh? Fluff.
And that's precisely the point. I don't sell anything, so I don't need the fluff.
Okay. I have a million other questions, but Marco, it's Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, thank you very much for.
Thank you. That was very fun.
I'm going to cut this short. I'm sure we could have gone on, but I'm going to cut it short. Marco,
thank you.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I keep laughing. I got to relax. Thank you, people, for being here. And now I'm going to do talking fluff. I have an outro, not just an intro. So we're going to do the outro. Marco, stick around. I have a few more things to ask you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
On the Peanut Gallery, thank you very much. And here goes the hard work I've done.